Okay, so today we'll continue our discussing this Angular testing part. In the previous lecture, we have discussed how to write down the test suite in Jasmine framework and how to write down the different test cases in the Jasmine framework. We'll continue finding more details about the different kinds of matchers available in the Jasmine framework. Okay, is my screen visible? Okay, so in the last lecture, we have discussed the difference between the 2B matcher and 2 equal matcher. So if we compare it, the array itself, the 2B, if we match it using the 2B function, it will fail. Instead, if we use the 2 equal function, it will pass. Okay, basically it will pass the test case. And we had also seen the use of 2 equal to compare the object as well. So 2B will fail while comparing the object, including its property values. But if we use the 2 equal, the test will pass. If you are comparing the object along with its property value. There is one more matcher called toContain, which can be used to find out whether the string contains a substring or whether an array contains a particular element or not, or even an array of objects may contain a specific object or not. Right. So you can use this toContain matcher to check whether that particular element is present within an array or not. So these are the examples in which in the first example we are finding whether that array contains an element 3. Second, we are checking whether that string duck is available in the array of strings. And in the third example, we are looking at whether the object with the name Fido exists or not in an array of objects. So basically there are two types of comparison, deep comparison and shallow comparison. So here it's an example of see that deep comparison, because it is not simply checking the reference, but it also basically it is checking the value or the properties of the object. Okay. And these are a few more examples of matchers, like whether we want to check whether the value is truthy or falsy. So again, it will like in JavaScript, we are considering the number to be the true value, or an object is also considered to be the true value. Null is considered to be false, or empty string is also considered to be false. So as per the JavaScript specification also, in Jasmine framework, you can use this matcher to check whether the Boolean expression is, or the expression is truthy or falsy, whether it evaluates to true or false. So for that, the Jasmine framework follows the JavaScript specification. So in fact, all these test cases will pass. So right now, I have not written the describe part or read function, only the expected value and the expected value and the actual value. So we are comparing the actual value with the expected value. You can also negate these condition matchers. So see that here we have used the not matcher. So just apply the not in front of the 2 equal matcher. So basically we are negating the value, the condition. simply use the not in front of the matcher. And even if you want to check whether the object exists or string exists or not, you can use the to be defined matcher, which will check whether this string exists or it is defined or some variable is defined or not, or whether variable points to a valid value or not. So in that case, you can use this to be defined or to be undefined. So you can see in this example, if you have a variable which is not defined, and if you are applying the matcher to be defined, it will fail. Okay, so side by side, I have also put up the, in comment part, I have written whether the test case will pass or fail. And some special case you need to consider, like null is considered to be defined, not to be undefined. So sometime in a complex expression or a variable doesn't point to a valid object, then in that case, it will fail. Even you can check whether the Boolean expression is null or not. So you can use this matcher to be null. So some special cases are also covered. So in case if your expression evaluates to some undefined value, it is not considered the null. Even you can check whether the number is a valid number or not. Otherwise, it is not a number, NaN. So normally this is results into an invalid arithmetic expression. You can see that 0 divided by 0 or any number divided by 0 will result into a not a number. Or any value other than number will also result to be a not a number. Okay. So there is one more useful matcher which can be used to compare the any value with the regex. So two match can be used in that case. For example, in the first case, we are expecting that hello world will match or contains a string or substring world. So this is the syntax part. In regex, you start the expression and close the regex with slash. And between this, you can write down any valid regex, regular expression. The second example, we are checking that it follows any image file. So whether it matches with any image file, which is having any JPEG image or GIF image, PNG, SVG, and slash I means it will ignore the case. So any file name which is nothing but which is an image file having a valid image file. So out of multiple image files, right now we are expecting it to be the JPEG, GIF, PNG, or SVG only. So again, this W plus means it is a one or more alphabets. Okay. And the third example is we are comparing whether it's a valid email ID or not. So again, you can see that should be alphabets followed by @ symbol. Then again, one or more alphabets followed by dot symbol. And finally, we have one or more alphabet. So this is a very simple regex to check whether the email address is valid or not. So again, in this example, see that W plus means we have one or more alphabets. Now, sometime before we apply this test case, we want to do some initialization. And once our test case is complete, we need to do some destruction kind of thing. We already know in class we have constructor, destructor. So before the instance gets created, it should be initialized, and once the instance is deallocated, it should do some housekeeping chores like freeing up memory or some closing the files likewise. So some tasks need to be done. So in Jasmine framework also it supports this kind of thing. So basically this thing is called setup and tear down. So there are two set of functions, two pair of functions are available: before all, after all, and before each, after each. So before all function will be executed before all the test specification of a given test suites are executed, and after all function will be executed once all the test case gets finished for a given test suite. So one test suite may contain one or more multiple test cases or test specification. And another pair of functions are before each and after each. And before each, it will be executed. That function will be executed before the execution of each test specification. Okay, and after each will run once the test specification gets completed. So these are some useful functions that can be used for initialization, creating objects, okay, or having some initialization code, opening a file, closing the file. So you can use this setup and tear down related pair of function. Okay, so let us see this example. So in this particular test suite, there is one test case, test specification, and before each, after each functions are used so that we are initializing the variable expected before execution of each test case. However, here it is only one test case, but we can have multiple test cases also. And this after each function will be executed once that test case is finished. So see that we are declaring a variable to be the empty string, expected variable to be the empty string, and we are modifying it maybe before or during before execution of each test case, during the execution of test case, and even after execution of each test case. So always whenever the test case starts, it will be initialized with the value hello world. So it will have some valid string. Okay, it is not an empty string. And once the test case gets finished, we are once again changing the value to the empty string. So again, that hello world function that we are testing, we are comparing that it equals to the value hello world. I hope that this is clear, setup part and tear down part. If you want to do some initialization or initializing variables, objects, creating components, you can just do it within this function and it would be available during the execution. And once you can dereference after each function. Because otherwise it may have the side effect, because these test cases will be executed either maybe in order or it may be randomly. These test cases may be executed, and that's why it is important to make sure that there is no side effect of any of the variables that you have declared in your test suite. So right now only this is a very trivial example wherein we have a single variable, but in general you can have multiple variables. Sometimes you want to manually fail some particular test case, then you can apply simply the fail keyword in front of the function, then that particular test case will fail. So this is we are forcing that particular test case to fail. And sometimes this kind of test is done to see whether one module or one function or one class has any side effect onto the other classes or dependent classes or not. So to check this, sometimes we are manually doing the fail part. So what is the question that after each means every function get over expected value is empty string. Yes. So within your test suite, you can have multiple test cases, and these test cases are written via the it function. And it function you can have the callback function, wherein you can do the comparison of expected actual value and expected value. So let us go back to the previous slide. So before this test case, right now there is only one test case, but before this test case gets executed, this variable expected will be initialized with the hello world. And once the test case is over, the expected string will be initialized to empty string. So normally, for example, your test case is opening some file, reading the data, and then finally closing the file. So normally, what should you do? You should open the file before your test case gets executed, and you should close the file after the test case is over. Otherwise, that file pointer or file related data structure will remain in memory. Okay, there are a few more facilities like you can nest, you can write one test case and inside another test case, or sorry, test suite, one test suite inside another test suite. So this is possible in JavaScript. Basically, it is used for organization purpose. And you can simply write down like this. In this example, you can see that one test suite is written under the another test suite. So again, you can have an hierarchy of test cases. You can organize your test cases together and you can put it under one test suite. And this kind of several test suites can be written under one single test suite. So basically, it is organization purpose only. But again, it will follow the scope of the variable so that any variable declared outside the in the outer test suite is accessible within the inner test suite. But again, you need to take care of the side effect of the variables, because one test suite might modify the value of the variable. It might be affected in the other test suite as well. So be careful while you are using this. Either you don't use this global variable kind of thing, or the variable declared in the outer scope, or so that would be recommended. And if you are using, then you need to take care that the outer scope variables may be affected inside the nested test suite. Okay. So this is an example where we are declaring a variable in the outer test suite, which has been compared within the inner test suite in one of the test case. So the nesting is possible. And it is also even possible that even outer test suite may contain one or more test cases or test specification. Okay, sometime there is a need that we need to temporarily disable one of the test suite. Then simply prepend this describe keyword with the X. So that will be ignored by the framework, right? Those entire test suite would be disabled temporarily as far as you have this X in front of the describe function. So there is an easy way. Earlier I told you that there is an easy way of disabling or temporarily disabling this testing part by simply you can change the name of the function describe to X describe. So all the test cases under that test suite would be ignored by the framework, right? And even if you want to particularly disable single or one or more test cases, again, you can do the same trick. You can just apply X in front of the function it. So it will become, instead of it will become X it. and then those will be displayed as the pending test cases in the final report generated by the Karma framework. Okay, the remaining test cases would be evaluated. It would be executed, but the test case having the name exit would be ignored. So those will be displayed as the pending test cases. Okay, now this is one of the useful feature SPY. So this is available in most of the modern testing framework. And Jasmine framework supports this SPYs, the concept of SPY. So what is the concept of SPY? In a normal scenario, we say spying on someone. Here also, basically you are writing SPY function, which are spying on particular function or function calls. And those are known as the SPY function. And even using this SPY function, you can track whether the function, one of the method, not only function, but it could be method of any class or component, whether the method is executed at all or not, or whether it has been executed or not, or whether it has been executed with a given set of parameter or not. So more sophisticated functionality you can check using this SPY function. Now, whenever you define any SPY function, it will be exist during that describe or it block only, and it will be removed after that specification ends. Okay, so you have to remember that wherever the scope of the SPY, it will be up to the test suite or test case. If it is defined within the test case, it would be, the scope would be for that particular test case only. And this Jasmine framework supports many of the special measures for specifically written for using along with this SPY function. And again, it will become more clear if you look at some examples. So here is an example in which I am declaring an object with method name, some method. So basically we can write down this SPY on function. There are two parameters. One is the object and the second parameter is the method name. Okay, on which we want to spy on. So once we set up this, afterwards we can check whether that method was executed or not. So in this case, in the before each function, we are spying on the object, and specifically the method name is some method. And we are calling that method twice. First time we are calling it with one parameter. Second time we are calling it with two parameters. And in the test case, we are checking whether it has been called or not. So there is a specific matcher function for SPY related function. So the matcher function name is to have been called. Okay. So you can see that this test case should pass because this method, some method was called twice, even if it had been called only once, then also the test case will pass. But suppose this method is not executed at all. For example, it might be part of the if condition or while loop, for loop. Depending upon some case, this method is not executed, so this test case will fail in that case. So it is useful for code coverage also. Okay, and sometime to check because now we are no more writing printf. Simply you can use this SPY function on a particular method, and you can use this test case whether it has been called or not. So if our requirement is such that this function must be called always. For example, in our program, always the main method must be executed. Always our program begins with main method. Something, if there's something mandatory, you can write down as part of the test case that, for example, the user must log in before it can perform any kind of job. So you can check whether the login method has been called or not. If it is not called, that means something is wrong. Even without login, the user is able to access the functionality. Other pages, the user is able to access the other pages, other web pages. Is it clear? This spy related functionality is very much useful in testing in any of the projects. The usage is very simple. You specify the object and the method name, and then the framework will look after whether that function is called or not. And later on, you can compare it using the matcher, like whether two have been called or not, kind of thing. Any doubt in this particular slide? Because this is important, because there are many related functions available with the spy methods. And here it is assuming the JavaScript code. If you are using the TypeScript code might throw maybe warning or error messages. Because in JavaScript it is allowed that even though the only one parameter is defined, you can pass one or more parameter to the function. So accordingly, you have to make change if you are writing it in the TypeScript code. Because it is a valid JavaScript code, but in TypeScript it will throw an error because at first time you are passing only one parameter, a second time. So first call is a valid, but second call is invalid in TypeScript because it is expecting only one parameter and we are passing two parameters. Is it clear, this spy on method? Okay. There is similar one more matcher called to have been called times. So I want to check whether this method is, I'm not interested whether it has been called, but I'm specifically interested in this method must be called 2 times, 3 times, or n times. Okay. So that particular constant I can define via this method, matcher method called to have been called times. So will this test case pass or fail? Yes, it will pass because this method, some method has been called twice. But if we change it to, if we call it 3 times, then the test case will fail. And even if you want to be more specific, that the method must be called, but which set of parameters, even that you can specify using the matcher called to have been called with. So again, these two test case, this test case will pass. Normally, you should keep one. You can compare one actual value with the expected value within one test case. So this is the recommendation. Don't keep multiple comparison within the one test case. It is to just these are the similar matcher, and that's why I have been kept it within the same test case. So this is useful for debugging purpose, as you know, like something is wrong and it is not working easily. This test case will fail because it may happen that you are expecting that the parameter pass from the user or from the registration form or any other form. Those values are not coming to the backend, and there it will fail because the value would be null. Normally, when we are testing whether the login name and passwords are say taste and taste, and they are comparing whether the username is taste, password is taste, and you have to check it, and you can use this matcher function whether it is on the in the back end you are getting these values or not, or even in the front end you can check this. So these are very useful standard methods, because once it has been set up, then whenever you change your code, the test case must pass, and you did not test it again because now you did not rewrite the test. You need to write the test cases once only, unless there is a change in the requirement. But once you have defined all the test cases, even after changing the code, simply this automated testing should check the unit testing of all these components or all your code, and it should generate the success report. And this is a few more sophistication that you can check for the argument also. Okay, if the method is called, what is the first argument, what is the second argument, or first time what is the argument, second time what is the argument. So internally it maintains an array of objects which will keep track of on the spy method. It will maintain that spy method was called how many times, every time with which set of parameters. So everything is being taken care by the framework, and we can make use of it. Okay, we can make use of it to check whether the method was called, how many, whether it was called or not, whether it was called with specific parameter, and even we can be more specific, like first time what was which were the set of parameters, second time which were the set of parameters, and so forth. So you can see this example is the TypeScript code I have written. I have just modified that JS code with that TypeScript code so that it will not throw an error. Because in the previous example, it was JavaScript code, it will throw an error in your TypeScript file.
Okay. बोल बोल अंकेश.
Uh, can you ask your question in the chat box, please?
Hello. Somebody asked the question. Can you repeat? Uh, if possible, can you write it in the chat box? So these are some few more related spy related function matchers, that whether it has been called any times or not. Then we have like we have already seen that we can check for the arguments. Then all the arguments of the method call. Okay, we'll see some useful. Okay, this is also useful. Like we are spying on particular method and we want to check whether that function returns a specific set of values or not. So this is useful while you don't have the implementation available. For a specific function, if the implementation is not available, you can use this return values. So temporarily, if you want to check, suppose we have discussed in the previous lecture that suppose there are 10 functions to be tested and 8 of them has been implemented, 2 are remaining. So what we can do, we can write down this py function along with the return values or expected values, and then you can do the testing and integration testing everything until those two functions are implemented by the developer. Till that time you can do the testing. Testing should not stop. Okay, it should not stop as far as and once those two functions or one of the function is implemented, you can make it part of your code and you can again do the integration testing. And if it fails now, that means there is some issue in the implementation of that particular function. Otherwise rest of the code was working fine, and that's why there is no issue in the remaining part of the code. But as soon as you add one functionality and your application misbehaves, or it result into some error, it throws some error, that means there is some issue with the newly added function. So this is also useful function that you can, until that functionality is not implemented, you can say that it should return values like this. First time it should return value this, second time it should return the second value, and so forth. So there is a object foo and having the method get bar, and it is not implemented, but we are still, it can be invoked and we can check that it first time it has been called, then it should return the value string first. Second time it is called, it should return a string second, and so forth. Again, this is a call fake method wherein you can have the fake implementation, like I told you here in the previous example, it was the return value was there, but here you can have the fake implementation. Okay, or stub functions can be implemented via the call fake method. And you can use it. Okay, so fine. Now we'll move on to testing part in our Angular project. Okay, we'll move to your our testing project. There we'll see how to define the function and how to write down the test suite for each function. I will show you one code for say max function. This is very simple function and its corresponding uh, test cases. Okay, so you can see this is the in one of the file max.ts we are writing the max function, which will find out the maximum number of the two number. So this is a very simple function. I hope that this is visible to you. Okay. So corresponding test suite, the file name is max.spec.ts, because this is the unit testing file for the max file or max function, which is stored into the max.ts. So we are importing this max function from the max file, and now this is the our test suite. And there are multiple test cases. One of the test cases says that the first number is greater than the second. So we are calling the max function, in which we are passing some two numbers, 10 and 5. So we are expecting that result must be the higher one. Okay, so maximum number out of the two numbers. So we are expecting the result should be 10. So these are the how you can test. So we are not worried about. So even this test cases can be written without even the function exist. Okay. Okay, even if the function doesn't exist, we can write down the test case, and in that case, all the test cases will fail. But once you write down this your function, then after that this test case will pass or fail depending upon the implementation. Second name, we are checking whether the second parameter is higher than the first one, larger than the first one. Third test case checks that both the numbers are equal. Fourth test case checks that the one of the number is negative and another is positive. Okay, so we are expecting the larger number to be the positive number. Similarly, the first one of the test cases is first parameter is positive, second is negative. Once again, the result is the positive. And if both the numbers are negative, what should be the maximum number? We are expecting that. And if either number is 0, we need to also check that either number is 0, another number is negative. Okay, so those are the test cases. Both the numbers are negative. One of that number should be the first parameter is smaller than the second one, or the first parameter is larger than the second parameter, and so all the test cases are written like this. Okay. So see that for every case we have written a specific test case. Okay. Meanwhile, we can see some other example. Okay. So this is an example where we can test the one of the class. So this is a rectangle class with one method called calculate area and two properties, height and width. There are corresponding getter and setter methods or accessor methods are there. Okay, so already you know this in JavaScript as well as in some other languages also. There is a support of this. So there is a distinction between field and properties. Here these are the accessor methods. So we can refer them via the property, height and width. So this is a very simple class, and I want to test that these accessor methods are working properly or not. And secondly, this method calculate area is working as expected or not. Okay. and this constructor we are initializing the value. If they are not initialized, they would be null, but because here we are using the optional, both the parameters are optional. Okay, so this is the unit test file for the rectangle class. In the test suite, basically in the test suite, what we are doing, we are having this rect variable which is null initially, and in the before each function we are creating an instance of the rectangle class. Okay, so we are creating an object of the rectangle. And in the after each we are setting it to the null. Okay, so this rect, so you can see the use of before each and after each. And now this is one of the test case. This is a simple test case, so that rectangle object exists or not. So we can check that not to be null. Okay, it should not be null. So you can check it that it should not be null. Because here we are creating an instance of the rectangle class. So we expect that it is not null. In the second test case, we are checking whether the getter and setter for the height property works correctly or not. So you can see that it should get and set height correctly. So it reads like a normal English language sentence. That it function, that it should get and set height correctly. So we are setting the height value initially, because you can see that we are not initializing the height and width while we create an instance of the rectangle. So we must set it up manually. Okay, so we are setting the height using the setter method, and then we are checking that we are getting using the height accessor rectangle.height, and then we are comparing it with the value 5. So this should work. If there is an issue in the implementation, this test case will fail. Okay, basically this test case will fail. What happened to the testing part? Just let me know. Yeah. Similarly, we can check the get and set for the width works or not. And finally, we are checking whether this calculate area method works properly or not. So we are setting the height and width of the rectangle, and then we are invoking the calculate area method, and it should return the result of this 3 multiplied by 5. So this is how you can write down the test cases, and let me show you the output of this. So already there are many test cases, but we are focusing on this testing of the rectangle class. So this is the description that we have written as part of the describe function, and there were 4 test cases. First test cases, we are checking whether the objects get created properly via the constructor. Second, we are checking the getter setter for the height works correctly. One of the test case checks the calculate area method, and one more test case checks the getter and setter for the width. And here there is an option. You can see that there's an option like run these test cases in any random order. But if you want to run the test cases the order in which you have defined it, then you can unset that value. Okay. Finally, we'll have this part. Right. So this is a very simple example. Similarly, you can let us see a few more examples. Yeah. Okay, this is the service part. Okay, this is also easy if you want to test that whether one of the service, Angular service, is working properly or not. Okay, let us see this example. So basically, this is an authentication service, and once the user is authenticated, then it will store the token onto the client side. Okay, using the local storage. So this is one of the features available, new feature available in the HTML5. That in addition to the cookies, now there is a provision of the local storage. So on the client side, you can store some user data like preferences of users or some user related data you can store onto the client side, not onto the server side. For example, user preferences, then uh, some temporary choices can be stored onto the client side. So then there is a method called local storage, and there are two methods: get item, set item. So you can set some token onto the client side. Okay, and then if it is successful, then it will return true. Okay, so you are storing this string onto the client side. Not storing, we are getting this get item, not storing. So we expect here that whenever the user is able to log in successfully, then this token is stored onto the client side. Sometime to keep track of the session. Nowadays, you will see that even after closing the browser, we are still logged into our account. Right. So many of the websites like mail account or any other account you have logged into any on any other website, they allow you to even continue the session even after closing the browser. So in that case, what do they do? Basically, sometimes they store this value, sometimes they store the token, authentication token, or sometimes they store the session ID. Based on that, you are storing this value onto the client side. And once again, if the user tries to get access the website, then we assume that the user is considered to be the already logged in. So this is the method for this service. It is checking whether this user is logged in or not. So if it finds the token on the client side stored onto the local storage, then it will return true, otherwise false. So right now we are not interested in whether the getting authenticating through the database and so forth. Here we are testing whether the user is authenticated previously or not, and the session is on or not. And now let us see the corresponding testing code. So this is our test suite. We are setting up before each function. What we do, we create an instance of the service. Okay, so here we have the service variable of type authentication service. We create an instance of it before execution of each test case, and once it is over, we set it to null. What else we do? Once the test case is over, we remove that token from the local storage. Okay, so local storage dot remove item token. So I think this is very simple enough. first have a variable pointing to the of type authentication service, create an instance of the auth service, and then after each test case, we are removing the token. Now, what we are expecting, there are two test cases. If the user is already authenticated, we have to check whether you have to create the token and store it onto the local storage on the client side. So we are doing it using the set item, local storage dot set item. The name of the token and the value is this 1234. This is something like cookies, but now this is new to HTML5. So it is all the modern browser supports it. And we are expecting that we are invoking that service, that it is authenticated or not, to be truthy. So it should return true because we are setting up this token on the client side. Before we invoke this method is authenticated. Okay. And in the second case, if you do not store it, the token, and if you are directly invoking this method is authenticated, then it should return false. Is this clear, this example? Is this example is clear or not? How to test the service? This is very simple example wherein we are writing a service and we are checking one of the method of that service. Similarly, you can test the other methods of that service. Even you can create the fake method or stubs for that service using the spy on method. So this is possible. Once you know that Jasmine framework and the multiple methods, then you can easily write it down, the application specific test cases in your project. Any doubt so far in this testing this auth service? So we have looked at how to check the function, how to test the function, how to test the class, how to test the service. Okay. Let's see a few more examples. Okay. This is the we are testing this employee service. We already written employee service. And we are adding it to few more things like whether the service to be exist, and we spy on the service method get employee, and we have the stub for that, that whenever the get employee method is invoked, it should return this thing, one of the employee with id 1, name test, and designation testing. We invoke the service with the parameter 1, and we make sure that this has been called at least one time. We already created this get employee service, so you can see that even though the implementation may not exist, we can write down our own implementation. So see the use of spy on method, on which object service, on which method get employee. This is the fake implementation. So this is the callback function. What it does, it takes id as the parameter and it returns this fixed object, okay, JavaScript object with three property: id, name, and designation. And this is the execution of this get employee method, and here we are checking that this method has been called at least once. Okay, any doubt so far? And there are few more calls like again we spy on the get employee method of the service object, and then we return a fixed set of values. Okay, this is an array of two employee records. It's an array of two employee records. Okay, name 1, name 2, designation 1 and 2, ID 1 and 2. And now we are calling this get employees method. It is returning an array of I employee type, and we are comparing it with the dummy. So this is the static value just because the implementation is not available. So there were two methods, get employee and get employees. So we are expecting that it should return all the employee records available in the database. So we are expecting that even though we have not created database, we are not getting the data, but due to using these dummy records, we can make sure that our code is working, your front end is working. So see the use of this and return values. So spy on this particular method, as well as whenever this method is invoked, return this fixed set of values. Okay, this is the array of two employee records which are returned always, even without the implementation of the service method. Once you have the implementation part, you can just comment out this part. Okay, you can simply comment out this part whenever that implementation is available. Now it would be this execution would be the actual to the actual implementation, not to this dummy part. Or you can simply comment out this spy on part, because now you are expecting that this would be the record. So you are comparing the return value with the dummy values. So in the database, you add some dummy records and you are comparing it with the dummy records. The only difference is now once you comment out this part, it will be the actual implementation of the method. Here we are specifically having stub method. Okay, we are having stub method which does not have its own implementation. Any doubt so far? Okay, let's move on to the testing of the component. Okay, so this is one of the component I have created with the name counter. So having one counter variable, counter property initialized to 0, and there are two methods, increment and decrement, which will increment and decrement the values of the counter respectively. So this is a very simple component that we have created. And now we wish to write the unit testing part. So this is the default code generated and we'll see to it. But before that, let us see the testing part. So already some initialization is done. Like there is a corresponding uh, creating an instance of the test bed. So this is a special class available for testing this Angular component. It will perform some form of initialization. So this test bed is required for that. Even you can this is specifically for the module, current module, and which set of components that you wish to test can also be specified. But right now we are ignoring that part. We are coming to the part wherein testing the code, testing the component. So first part is that should be an instance of the component available. Okay. So we check whether the instance is to be truthy. So it has been created or not, and it is already there. If you look at the code in before each, you can see that fixer dot component instance. So we get the reference to the component instance in the variable component, and it is initialized with the counter property of the component class is initialized to 0. So we have the reference to the component instance, and it must be there only after we are checking for the other methods, say increment method or decrement method. First of all, it should exist. Second test case is we are invoking increment counter and we are checking the new value of the counter to be the 1. So this counter property should have the value 1 after executing the increment counter method. Similarly, we can have decrement counter method and it should be -1, because after once the test case is over, the counter value will be initialized to 0. So that you can see that this is the before each function, and one of the statement that we have added is component dot counter value equal to 0. That means once that test case is over, it will be uh, reinitialized with the value 0. Or rather, before execution of each test case, the counter value is set to 0. So we can expect that in each test case, the current value of the counter is 0. If we decrement it, it should be -1. So these are the simple test cases are written for the component class called counter. Okay. Now let us see how to test the forms, like user registration form is there. Okay, so see this example. There is a user form wherein we are creating. This is the model driven form or reactive form. So within this form, we are creating a form group, and there are two fields, name field and email field. Name field has the required validation, and for the email field, we are not putting any validation. This is just to show you that how to test form. Okay. So this is the model driven form, and corresponding, let me check whether the HTML part form works. Okay, no CSS, but this is just to check the model driven form, and we want to make sure that this form has two fields, name and email, and these are name field as the validation, required validation, and email field right now no validation has been kept. Now let us look at this testing part. Okay. first we'll check that this component is created. So an instance of the component exists. Second test case, we are writing that this component dot user form contains the field name to be truthy. So that means an instance of that form control exists. Similarly, we are checking the instance of the email form control exists. Okay, and one more test case, what we are checking that we are getting the value of the name field. And there is a method set value. We can set it to null, and we are checking that it is invalid to be truthy. So see that even without user interaction, we want to test the form. Okay, so suppose right now we are automating the testing part. So we are manually we want to check that if we if the required field, so one of the required field in our user form is name field. So we are specifically setting it to the empty string. Okay, we are setting it to the empty string, and we want to make sure that invalid property of the control is true, because now the required validation should fail. Okay, here in this case the required validation should fail. So in that case invalid property would be true. If we check for valid property, it should be false. So in that case we can compare the to be false. So this is just one example of how to do the validation testing. You can try with the different values and make sure that all of them fails or all of them passes. So you can have some valid cases, you can have some invalid cases. And right now this is only just to keep this example simple, only one part is clear, but one part is taken, but otherwise you can test for multiple fields, multiple validation. Okay, all these things you can incorporate into the testing code. So once you have hold over that instance, you go to the user form, get the name field. Name field refers to the form control, and for that form control you are setting the value to be the empty string, and now the invalid property should be true. Okay, for that control invalid property should be true because it is required field, and that's why the validation will fail. And valid property should be false. So either of this you can check. And if you look at the output, it should be there. Yeah, you can see that this form component should create a component. It must have two form controls, and it should have a name control to be the required field. So okay, all these three test cases pass, and if we change the code, suppose here, if we temporarily what we do, let's do this. So see that we have modified the code, and now the this test case fails because invalid property is no more true, because now the name field has the required value, some non-null string, non-empty string is set, and that's why the invalid property should be false instead of true. Now the test case fails. So both kind of testing you can incorporate, or you can have a multiple test cases, one for checking for the valid value, another checking for invalid value, and you can but the idea is all the test case must pass. Okay, if either the implementation is wrong, then the test case will fail. You can see that okay, out of 40 specification, one test specification resulted into the failure, and that expected to be the false to be the truthy. So we are expecting it to be the truthy, but getting the actual value to be the false. So once again, we can set it to the empty string. If we save, now all the test specs passes, right? Including that form component, right? So see that what I have done, one of the two cases I have just rename it with exit. So just happened prepend this letter X in front of before that it function. There are two pending specifications. Okay, so you can see that there are two pending specifications because this will not be evaluated by the framework. They will be ignored temporarily. And all those functions that we have discussed during the Jasmine framework matchers are available over here, like the method like to have been called two times, or the particular method has been called with the parameters 1 2 3, or two different parameters. Okay, all these are been tested in a single test suite. Okay, and all these things like to be, to contain, all these are there, to match, right? Okay, fine. So with this, we are ending with our testing part. So now if you have any difficulty setting up this Jasmine framework, by default it is already set up while you create a new project. And you need to just specify the ng taste command, which will taste all the spec file available in your project. So you can taste the components separately, you can taste the classes separately, you can taste the functions, methods, user forms. Similarly, you can taste the pipes or any other component. Just what you need to do, you create an instance, call the expect and matcher methods, and checking that it is you are getting the actual value to be the expected value. If it fails, you will find the failure report in the browser, say Chrome browser. By default, it is a Chrome browser, but otherwise you can set it up to some other browser also by modifying the configuration file. But right now we don't want to modify the default configuration. And then you can start testing your code. So now you can work with all the existing code that you already done. You can test it using this framework. And if you find any difficulty, let me know. Or if you have any other doubts related with the Angular, you can ask during the lab time. I will share the slide onto the Google Classroom so that you can directly copy paste the code and you can just verify how does it works, and then you can apply it to your component classes or any other code. From the next lecture onwards, we'll be starting with the Node.js, and then we'll develop the REST API in the Node.js. This we will invoke in the same project that we have done in the Angular. From the Angular front end, we will invoke the REST API. The MongoDB part I will not cover, it has already been covered. So we'll create the database in the MongoDB. We'll fetch the data from the MongoDB database in the Node.js. The Node.js, the code is written in the JavaScript. So we do not require any separate classes for the JavaScript. And within the front end, so it could be Angular or React, you can invoke this REST API and you can fetch the data and you can just simply render it onto the browser screen. So that is how you are developing any web app in the modern world. Okay, modern application uses this architecture wherein the role of the front end framework is to simply focus on the presentation logic part, and the backend is simply passing the data required by the front end or manipulating the data. So manipulation of the data is not done by the front end. Basically, all the data or user interaction will be done by the front end, and all the processing should be done by the back end with the help of database. And still, if it is not clear, once we will cover this in Node.js, it will become more clear. We'll look at very simple example that you can easily adapt to your code or your situation. So I will also share the code in case of Node.js or any other code. to connect to the database and fetching the data and passing it to the client. And then you can reuse that code, or you can customize that code as per your project. So the session is open for any discussion, any doubt solving, or any other issue that you may encounter. Let me upload this slide, and so that you can also download and start working on that. Just give me a minute. Okay, so I have just shared this PPT. You can use it for learning that testing part. For more detailed explanation, you can refer to the official Jasmine framework documentation in its official website.